The night sky over Saratov suddenly erupted in towering columns of fire. Massive plumes of black smoke billowed upward, visible for miles, as flames consumed one of Russia's most critical oil facilities. Sirens wailed, emergency lights cut through the darkness, and chaos gripped the city. But this was no accident. Ukrainian drones had struck deep into Russian territory, and the target this time wasn't a military base, but a refinery so vital to Russia's economy that its destruction could ripple across the entire country. This is more than just an attack. It's a direct strike at the financial heart of the Kremlin's war machine, and the consequences could be far more devastating than the Kremlin wants to admit. The city of Saratov is not just another industrial hub in Russia's vast landscape. It is home to the Engels Air Base, a cornerstone of Russia's strategic aviation, where nuclear-capable bombers are stationed. Yet, on this night, it wasn't the airbase that came under fire. Instead, Ukrainian drones zeroed in on one of the largest oil refineries in the region. Eyewitness footage from the scene reveals the scale of the operation. At least 3 drones are confirmed to have struck multiple points across the sprawling refinery complex. Each impact triggered explosions and raging fires, engulfing key refining units in flames. Video from Russian sources shows fire crews scrambling, but curiously, some emergency vehicles were spotted heading in the wrong direction, highlighting the chaos on the ground. By morning, thick smoke still hung over the city. The flames had not been fully contained, and experts examining the damage have declared large sections of the refinery inoperable, potentially for years. The facility's delicate refining equipment, expensive and difficult to replace under Western sanctions, was shredded in the strikes. And this wasn't an isolated incident. This refinery was just one of several Russian fuel processing sites destroyed in rapid succession over the past 10 days. Ukraine has dramatically escalated its campaign against Russian oil infrastructure. In just the past week and a half, strikes have crippled multiple refineries across different regions, knocking out an estimated 10% of Russia's total refining capacity. These aren't symbolic attacks. They're precision strikes designed to erode Russia's ability to fuel both its civilian economy and its military operations. The Saratov refinery in particular was a high-value target. Satellite imagery from NASA's fire detection systems confirmed massive blazes within the refinery's processing units. The refinery is a giant compared to many in Russia. Its scale is so large that when viewed on satellite maps, it dwarfs surrounding neighborhoods. Now, much of it lies in ruins. While storage tanks for diesel and gasoline appear to have escaped direct hits, the refinery's core systems, where crude oil is transformed into usable fuels, have been heavily damaged. Without them, fuel production grinds to a halt. And the timing of these attacks could not be worse for Moscow. The Kremlin has already been forced to impose temporary bans on diesel and gasoline exports to stabilize domestic supply. While officials insist fuel prices for civilians are stable, reserves are finite. Analysts warn that shortages are inevitable if attacks continue at this pace. Losing 10% of refining capacity in just over a week is a crippling blow. Russia depends on its vast network of refineries not just to supply domestic needs, but to sustain lucrative exports. With key plants offline, Moscow's ability to earn foreign currency through fuel sales will shrink, cutting off vital funds that finance its war in Ukraine. Saratov's role in Russia's war effort goes beyond oil production. As home to both a strategic airbase and one of the country's largest refineries, it is a nerve center for both economic and military operations. The Engels Air Base, located just kilometers from the refinery, houses 295 and 160 bombers capable of carrying nuclear weapons. In previous months, Ukrainian forces have targeted this airfield in daring drone strikes, damaging military aircraft, and sending shockwaves through Russia's air force. By hitting the refinery this time, Ukraine has demonstrated an ability to strike at the economic underpinnings of Russia's war effort, all while keeping the pressure on military assets nearby. And this is where the attack becomes even more politically dangerous for Vladimir Putin. In past months, Moscow has tried to secure agreements with Western nations to limit Ukrainian strikes on Russian energy infrastructure. But Russia's own actions, particularly repeated attacks on Ukraine's civilian power grid, have erased any goodwill. Kyiv now sees such facilities as fair game, and recent strikes suggest there is no intention to stop. This refinery assault is not just a military move, it's a political statement. Ukraine will target the assets that fund Russia's war. And for Putin, the optics are disastrous. Each successful strike deep inside Russian territory undermines his image of control and security. Beyond the battlefield, the global oil market is shifting. Canada and other allies have lowered the price cap on Russian oil exports from $60 per barrel to under $48. This adds more financial strain to Moscow, which has already lost nearly 18.5% of its oil and gas revenues between January and July of this year. In July alone, energy revenues dropped by 27%. This is a staggering loss for a government that relies heavily on oil and gas income to fund not only its military, but also key domestic programs. Russia's finance ministry admits the country is losing the equivalent of 10 billion US dollars each month in energy revenues. That shortfall will force budget cuts in infrastructure, healthcare, and education, while military spending remains untouched, and the long-term economic picture looks even bleaker. Russian officials are warning that the country could see near zero economic growth by the end of 2025. The small gains projected for 2024 are largely artificial, fueled by government borrowing and war-related spending. While the military sector booms, civilian industries stagnate. This war economy creates a dangerous divide. Those employed in arms production enjoy higher salaries, while other sectors face cuts, shortages, and inflation. But as Ukraine pushes the fight deeper into Russian territory, as seen in Saratov, the perception that the war is profitable for ordinary Russians begins to crack. The term stagflation, stagnation plus inflation, is being used to describe the future of Russia's economy. And it's not just economists warning about this, even officials inside the Kremlin are quietly acknowledging the storm ahead. While Western sanctions and Ukrainian strikes squeeze Russia's oil sector, Moscow still finds buyers in countries like China and India. But even these relationships face challenges. India, under pressure from the United States, has been increasing purchases of American and Middle Eastern oil instead of Russian crude. China, meanwhile, benefits from cheap Russian energy, but has made it clear it does not want Russia to lose the war. Beijing's stance ensures the conflict remains profitable for its own interests, keeping Russia dependent on Chinese markets while limiting Moscow's leverage. Given the current rate of resource depletion, analysts estimate Russia can sustain the war for perhaps 3 more years, but only by cutting deeply into other areas of the economy. If forced to choose between domestic welfare programs and the war, Putin's track record leaves little doubt. Every available ruble will go toward military objectives. Infrastructure projects, healthcare expansions, and education reforms will be shelved indefinitely. This singular focus on war spending ensures that even as refineries burn, as in Saratov, Moscow will keep the military supplied, but at the expense of the population's quality of life. The attack on Saratov's refinery is more than a headline-grabbing strike. It represents a broader Ukrainian strategy: weaken Russia's economy by destroying the very facilities that fuel both its tanks and its treasury. If Ukraine can sustain this tempo, targeting one refinery after another, the cumulative effect will be catastrophic for Russia's war effort. Every destroyed facility means less fuel for military vehicles, fewer exports to friendly nations, and tighter budgets for the Kremlin. The fire in Saratov may eventually be extinguished, but the flames it ignited in Russia's economic stability will burn much longer. With more than 10% of refining capacity already knocked out, and Ukrainian drones proving they can hit deep into Russian territory, the question is no longer whether Russia's oil industry is vulnerable. It's how much more of it can be destroyed before the entire system begins to collapse. And as the world watches these strikes unfold, one thing is becoming increasingly clear. The battlefield of the Ukraine war now stretches far beyond the front lines. In Saratov, in the refineries, in the oil markets, this is where the next phase of the war will be decided.